Hi, it's Don Southerton, and welcome back to Everything Korea. This week's episode is Chaebol Restructuring and Reform 2017. Now, somebody may be following the media and the concerns in Korea over reform being pressed on to the major Korean companies. I'll chat about that today. So, reform in South Korea reaches back to the Asian IMF crisis of 1997. At that time, a bailout package from the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, shut down insolvent banks and pushed the debt-ridden industrial companies into receivership. Now, the remaining groups still stand and were able to go and withstand this, but they had little choice but to follow government mandates, including restructuring and greater transparency. Now, in some ways, not much has changed in the last 20 years. Regulators continue to pressure the leading Korean groups to take on more transparent corporate governance structuring. Now in the form of a holding company model. So, what is a holding company? Now, a holding company is a legal entity that owns other companies' stocks. Now, the holding company typically does not run these businesses, but do wield control over their affiliates and their subsidiaries. In turn, a holding company, the entity, collects fees from their own operating units and for use of the corporate brand, which is a considerable asset. Now, the Korean government has gone back and forth between tightening and loosening regulations on the Chaebol. And the trend is now toward tightening. Now, more so with the impeachment and graft scandal involving former President Park, which pulled in Samsung and Lotte and SK. Now, politicians are even calling for greater reform. Now, things are complicated. It's not as easy as it always seems. In most cases, the model for a group to split itself includes the flagship company into two entities, one an operating company and the other the holding company. Now, this is a whole series of course, steps that would be involved with that. Now, that said, Korean laws mandate that the holding company must own at least 30% of its public affiliates, and this is where it poses a problem. So, for example, the Samsung Group were to move toward the holding company model with its flagship Samsung Electronics as the entity. It would require the flagship to then buy additional shares in many of its affiliates. So right now they might have control through stockholdership, but they maybe have a very small share in that company, and they would have to escalate that and elevate it to 30%. That would cost maybe millions, even into the billions of dollars. All said, Korean conglomerates are increasingly being reined in with new laws and taxes that seek to hold back and hold family members accountable and increase the transparency of the organizations. But more significant, perhaps, is the disruptive public mood and the presidential contenders coming back into Korea for the election this year that will pledge to shake up corporate governance and lay out new reform agendas. So until next time, this is Don Southerton wishing you all the best.